Hello everyone, nubkeks here, welcome back to Nub Raids, and in today's video I want to do a showcase of Skull Lord Var-Gall. And in fact, as you can see, I was recording this big thanks to Nemesis. He goes by Dazzy in the comments section down below. He let me jump onto his account where he has not one, but two Skull Lord Var-Galls fully built up. Mastered, booked, everything, and we're going to see both of them in action with different builds. So the first one is the stronger one. We're going to see this here today. I rebuilt him a little bit, and he actually ended. He's too strong. He's too strong. He has more stats than he needs, which is hilarious. But yeah, let me talk about Skull Lord Var-Gall here, and just tell you basically what his kit does really quick and why he's so good. And what we're going to be seeing today's video, I'm going to show you two very different Hydra teams, a one key brutal and an absolute dominating one key hard. Really insane one. So his A1. Double hitter, fills his turn meter, and he's got a chance to repeat the skill, place heal reduction. It's kind of fun. Sometimes he pops off and he just repeats, and he gets a ton of A1s off. It's just, single target damage, basically, for our purposes here. His A2 is what makes him so good. 2-turn cooldown when booked, strengthen on himself for 2 turns, and a 100% chance when booked of placing provoke on a target enemy for 1 turn. So this is just a placed debuff. It's not an attack, so it can't weak hit. And what this effectively lets you do, a provoke every 2 turns that he takes if we build his speed high. And it's easy to build his speed high because his stats are so nuts. It's just, you've got tons of budget left over to put into speed. And if you bring in things like increased speed or decreased speed, he can absolutely, even on Nightmare, I think, completely lock down Head of Decay just by himself with the right sort of speed manipulation, which is just insane. It's so strong. We're going to run him with Lady Kimmy in one of these teams, and she's a very good combo with him. And the Strengthen buff on himself, basically permanent Strengthen on himself as well. This is an extra buff. If you don't bring a Strengthen buff on your team, he can be the Head of Mischief tank then. He'll have 1 buff more than everyone else, Strengthen. So the Head of Mischief is going to target him. It always targets whoever has the most buffs. And he's got 90 base resistance, so we can build him to be that resistance tank for Mischief. So super useful, countering Mischief and Decay in 1 move. Then his A3 is an AoE that has a 100% chance when booked to put decreased attack for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. So this is your counter to Head of Wrath. Also really helps with Head of Torment, who hits you pretty hard as well. So he's just doing a whole ton of stuff with his basic kit. This passive over here is really just for Scarab Boss, not useful for Hydra, but amazing passive. And then this passive here, again, not useful for Hydra, but it is amazing for faction wars and cheesing certain things in the game. So just really good kit overall. The stuff for Hydra, it's sort of basic, but it does the jobs it wants to do very well. He's just like specifically targeted to counter like 3 heads at once. And he doesn't do anything more than that, but he does those 3 things, those 3 counters really well. And then, like I said, insane base stats, like so far ahead of everyone else in the game, it's not even funny. So what I've got here, I recorded the stuff. It takes a long time to run Hydra, so we're going to go through it at like double speed, and I'm going to skip around and all that sort of stuff. But basically, we've got these 2 Skull Lord Var-Galls. This first one, so I rebuilt him, and he ended up with more stats than we needed, which was not ideal. I say the one thing to definitely try to do with him, definitely try to get him into a Blood Shield accessory of some sort. And you can be very flexible with this. You can put him in a bad Blood Shield accessory because his stats are so good, you can easily compensate for it. It's not a big deal. But the Blood Shield accessory gives him a small shield whenever he attacks, and that's very helpful. Yeah, it's very helpful. It's just going to ensure that he tanks Mischief more effectively. Because he only has the 1 buff extra. Getting that shield buff as well, it's just a little bit of extra help. So there you go. If we skip on ahead, we can see the stats that we ended up with. This Skull Lord Var-Gall is nuts. 60k HP. He's got 27k. I think he's more than double your starter champion. He's got so much, it's easy to build it high. Attack does nothing. Defense going for about 3k. Speed, we want to be fast. We do want him to be quick. Now, one of the issues is he's maybe a little bit too fast here. I would try to be running him slower than your buff champions so that he gets his buffs like refreshed. So he's not going to outrun his buffs. So have him slower than your buff champions, but faster than your damage dealers. So for Brutal Nightmare, this is a build for more than enough for Nightmare. This is like Ultra Nightmare Hydra, which doesn't exist. It would be something like this build, I think. For Nightmare, probably around 250 speed is a pretty good point, where you can easily enough build your other supports to be a bit faster. So we will keep all the buffs up at all times. Or if you bring in buff extenders, it gives you a lot more flexibility. But yeah, trying to get him a good speed so he gets back around to that provoke is important. Crit rate, you might as well build high, because why not? He's got so many stats, he's not going to die. Some crit damage. Then for resistance and accuracy, this obviously depends on the level of Hydra that you're on. I've discussed this in other videos. For resistance is sort of the main thing we're looking at here. For Nightmare, 500 is plenty. So we've gone way over. Way over. You don't need that much. 500 is plenty for Nightmare. For hard, you're looking for about 450, 460. For normal, 410. That base 90 resistance helps so much to make this easy to do. Put him in a resistance banner, resistance chest plate, and you're going to be most of the way there already with any sort of Great Hall bonus at all. Accuracy, 400 is more than enough for Nightmare. Realistically, you can get away with less than that. So yeah, again, we've over-indexed here. Let me skip on ahead. I think, yeah, there's his mastery. So again, this is why we've over-indexed. We're going to get bonus accuracy with these two moves as well, which is why we're definitely over-indexed. Sorry, this is the second one, but I think they had the same masteries. But basically, offense tree for War Master, bit of extra damage, and then extending his debuffs, extending his buffs. I don't think the buff extension is really that important. I'm not actually convinced that this support tree is really that important at all. You could totally put him down the defense tree if you wanted. I actually think it's very flexible. As far as I'm concerned, the masteries don't really matter. They don't really matter. In fact, I didn't even bother changing them. This is what he was built with already. I think the thing with the masteries is that he's got strengthened up all the time anyway, so you don't really need to worry about it. But anyway, yeah, there you go. This was the second one. So the second one, by the way, a bit slower. He's got lower resistance. This should be slightly higher for hard. We'd want it to be higher, more like 450 or so. This is going to be a little unreliable there. And he's got, again, tons of HP. So I'd be retweaking this guy. And you'll see, well, I'll show you this in the run. This one is built in Relentless. And you can see the big problem with Relentless is we're going to outrun our buffs. But we're going to be able to make it work nonetheless. So let me grab the first video here. I have to remember which one it is. Is it this one? Yeah, it's this one. Here we go. So first of all, here we go. Let's go into this run. Let's speed it up, and you can see exactly how things are going. And in this run, there's a few really funky things happening, guys. A few really funky things. But we've got Skull Lord Var-Gall in here as our Mischief tank. There you go. You can see he's tanking Mischief already. In fact, there we got a little bit unlucky, and he actually did steal the buffs, but we'll get back to it. Nice thing is, because he's got his buffs on a 2-turn cooldown, you will return to your buffs pretty quickly, so you're not going to miss out that much. And we're not actually running that many buffs in this team, so we can get away with some stuff. We've got some decent backup resistance as well on Raglan and Lady Kimmy. Both have pretty good resistance, so to sort of help us get away with that. So what's happening with this team? What's happening with this team? Well, we've got a few things going on. So the most interesting thing here, guys, I think, probably for a lot of you watching, no Inquisitor Shamail and no Perfect Veil either. Okay, which means that Head of Torment's going to be fearing us all the time. And this is on Brutal. This is on Brutal right now. So we're going to get feared all the time. How do we deal with it? Well, basically, we have a cleanse with Ugo and a cleanse with Raglan, both on 4-turn cooldowns. Ugo's cleanse can just remove poison, so it's not 100% consistent. We're just going to have to deal with it. I think that's one of the fun things about this run right here. We're just going to deal with the fears, the true fears. Try to attack Head of Torment as little as possible. When we do get true feared, we're just gonna have to accept it and live with it. And yeah, try to use our cleanses smartly as well to remove some of those true fears and whatnot. And one of the things you can see that's quite different here is I will be trying to kill off Torment fairly quickly, because it is a pain, right? We want to get rid of him. So Torment actually jumps up. Instead of being the head that you never want to kill, really, he jumps up to being the head that we want to kill maybe first, just to get rid of those true fears. So I think that makes this, number one, a really interesting comp. Who do we have in here? So we obviously have Skull Lord, and we know what he's doing. And you'll see him doing it as we go through this run and doing it really, really well. Like he's putting the strengthen on right now. And you'll see we come back around to Mischief. He attacks Skull Lord. Unfortunately, again, right there, we got the buff stolen. Again, that's just bad luck. This Skull Lord has 550 resistance. There's just always the 3% chance that he steals it. I guess it happened a couple of times in a row. It can just happen, you know. He even has decreased accuracy on, and it still got stolen. So unlucky, but there you are. We have Raglan is in then. Raglan in this run. She is in here to heal us and to revive us. She also gives a bit of turn meter boost on her A1. Now, funny enough, we actually ended up just completing this run because it's a 1-key brutal run. I'd never used Raglan before, and I didn't realize this, but her heal is really bad. Or, well, her heal's not really bad, but let me put it a different way. Her heal requires attack to be good. That's the way to put it. Her heal scales off of her attack. We don't have any increased attack in this team. She is not really built with much attack. So that was one of the big problems with this run, I found, was that her healing's actually really bad. So that was sort of holding us back. When I tried to do Nightmare with this team, she just couldn't heal enough. So that's something to consider, but her revive is absolutely insane. The best champion, obviously, to run in here with Skull Lord, the best combos with Skull Lord, Sifi is without any shadow of a doubt the #1 combo with Skull Lord. That increased defense, the block debuffs, the increased speed, turn meter boosting, and then just her constantly pumping out healing is going to be enough healing to keep everyone alive. She brings you a revive for those worst case scenarios. And yeah, she's just definitely the best one to put with him. We don't have Sifi on this account though. Duchess can also be really good, but again, we didn't have Duchess. So as you can see, we're not using either of those for this run here in Nightmare. And really, instead of Raglan, you could bring any sort of healer type reviver. On Nightmare, the best run I got was 20 million on Nightmare, but I didn't use Raglan because she couldn't heal enough with this build. I actually brought in Withier. We did a run with Withier the Crown, and we did 20 million on Nightmare. But the problem that we ran into was that it was very inconsistent because Withier the Crowned, yes, she does a lot of healing, but her continuous heals go on random people. Or it's not, well, not random, but it's not fully controllable, which meant that our ability to tank Mischief was really out the window. You know, it was very random at that point. So that was the problem with that run. And then, especially after someone got devoured when they were spat back out and they came out with no buffs and possibly at low health and no turn meter, that they could get picked off and killed, right? Because with Withier, a lot of the healing comes from continuous heals and people taking turns, and her increased defense, letting them stay alive to do that. So if they, after getting devoured, sometime, like I think in the run, I think Husk got devoured, and although he's a tanky champion, when he popped back out, he got picked off by some overlap of abilities, and Withier couldn't save him because he couldn't take a turn. So yeah, that's basically what's happening there. So Raglan, it's fun though, fun to run Raglan. Oh, here we go. I forgot to say, because we were talking about this, I'm sorry, I'm a bit all stuffed up from allergies today, so I really do apologize. Here we can see Skull Lord already doing his whole lockdown thing. Fantastic. So using his provoke to lock down that head of decay. And you can see that it's not always 100%. I think that's where the Sifi would really help. Sifi providing additional increased speed. But look, boom, he hasn't provoked. The dude takes a turn. And by the time decay got back to his turn, Skull Lord was back to his provoke already, thanks to our speed manipulation. So it's a really cheeky strategy, guys. It's so cheeky, locking down decay fully by himself as well as tanking Mischief. He's doing so many things. We've got our fairly typical Husk and Geomancer in this run here today. You see Raglan with Relentless, like she reses Husk. She does the AoE heal with a Relentless proc, and then she's like, yo, cool, I'm back. I've got my revive again if someone dies, which was kind of fun. And yeah, then Lady Kimmy. Now, Lady Kimmy is also a really good combo with Skull Lord Var-Gall. So here's the problem. I'd say one of the biggest problems with Skull Lord is that you are going to be running him. You cannot run him with Lydia. So that's a big problem because Lydia, for most players, is going to be one of your best Hydra champions. She's insanely good, but you can't run them together because she gives strength into your team, which breaks Skull Lord. Well, it just stops Skull Lord being able to tank Mischief. You cannot put the two together, so you need to separate them out. Lydia, by the way, is really good with Krisk. So they need to be separate. So you need to find decreased defense somewhere else. In this case, Ugo. Ugo really good with Skull Lord here. And then you need to find increased speed somewhere else as well, and decreased speed. So like Lydia and Krisk, which I run myself, Lydia and Krisk together, Lydia gives you increased speed, Krisk gives you decreased speed. If we're bringing Skull Lord instead of Krisk, how do we deal with it? Well, basically, it's quite tricky. But basically, we need someone to bring increased speed, decreased speed. So Shamrock is a good option. I think Sifi's really strong, and then Lady Kimmy, really worth considering as well. Lady Kimmy gives you increased speed, gives you some turn meter, gives you increased accuracy if you need it, and then she brings decreased accuracy, decreased speed as well, which is very helpful. The decreased accuracy we get from Geomancer too, but it's just good to have it be consistent. We really want it in particular against the head of Blight. The one that poisons you, that's going to do a lot of damage, and you can potentially get wiped out from that. So something to watch out for. But here you go. You can see, excuse me, we're coming to the end of the run. In fact, let me skip on ahead. I will upload these full runs for you guys to watch if you're members of the channel, so some member exclusives. But here we come to the end. I actually thought this was hilarious at the end. So like, look at this. The last couple of minutes of this run, it's hilarious. It's just Skull Lord and Kimmy. It's just Skull Lord. He's just like, yeah, man, I got this, bro. Don't worry. I'm going to keep going. Doesn't do much damage, but he lasts for ages. And this was the ultimate result for this run. 23 minutes. We did do it on manual, of course. 30.27 million damage dealt. 1 key brutal. Lovely. Geomancer Husk do most of the damage. Var-Gall, you can see his damage output's really nothing too exciting. So you can drop that crit rate if you want to, but hey, it wouldn't have been a 1 key if you didn't have it. Doing some damage, but mostly it's that control that he's bringing. So good. Ugo doing some damage, lots of healing. Raglan, you can see Raglan's healing was really bad. Yeah. So that's where Sifi would make this so much stronger and keep more uptime and increased speed, whereas Lady Kimmy is a little bit inconsistent with increased speed because she was getting feared by a Head of Torment. And then Kimmy, obviously, really doing that speed manipulation. So a really nice, really nice key here. Really happy that 1 key brutal, but that's not all, guys. Let's go in with the second. Let's go in with the second Skull Lord. Where's my Maxim? There we go. Second Skull Lord. Let's make it happen, guys. What are we doing? This is a completely different composition. And let's see how this one goes. So this one is much spicier. This one is on hard. Previous one was on brutal. Again, we're bringing in Skull Lord. This is Skull Lord number 2, who has really high HP. Lacking a bit of resistance, mind you. And he's got Relentless. So you're going to see the Relentless. It sort of works and it sort of doesn't. But this team is pretty nuts. We've got Mashald in the lead, giving us increased speed and doing lots of damage. We've got a Shamail, who's protecting us from Torment and boosting the Mashald. You'll see if when you watch this run that this team would fall apart on Brutal, even just Brutal, and certainly on Nightmare. You can see how low Mashald goes. Now he heals himself back up with the leeches, but he's just not tanky enough to survive on Brutal or Hard with this particular team. Brogni is in here. Brogni giving us the shielding, increase attack, block debuffs. He's giving us all this stuff, and we're kind of relying on Var-Gall to protect us. It was one issue with this team was that Var-Gall, although the Relentless set you'll see is very useful for him getting the provokes out consistently, the downside of the Relentless set is that he will outrun buffs. He'll outrun buffs, which will mean that sometimes other champions are going to be targeted by Mischief because he has Relentless set. So that's kind of bad. And Blood Shield doesn't work because we have the shields from Brogni. So this particular build of Var-Gall, I actually don't like it. I think it's much worse. You're better off not having him in Relentless, and he doesn't necessarily combo the best with champions like Brogni that give you shields. But as you see, this works great on hard here. It worked great. But yeah, then we got Arbiter for reviving and healing us. We've got basically Brogni shields to heal us. We've got Arbiter to top us up if we go really low to keep us going. And then mostly we're healing off the leech as well. And then finally we've got Assisia Flame Tongue in providing us those AoE HP burns and decrease attack and weaken AoE as well. So it's a pretty cool team, right? Pretty fun team. You can see we're at 10 million, 13 turns in. Pretty nice. You can see how hard Mashald hits. It's actually nuts as well. Be very careful with his A3. He gives himself lots of buffs, which will get stolen. So you need to make sure he's not going to have this stuff stolen. You can outrun the buffs using the Torment boost, like right here, before Mischief gets a turn. So that's kind of nice. One thing this team doesn't have is a decreased speed. So that's one of the slight problems. So like I said, sometimes Decay with this sort of team, Decay will get turns sometimes. He will cleanse sometimes, right? Because you don't have decreased speed to lock him down. We only have increased speed. And with Relentless, you also outrun the increased speed sometimes. It's kind of wonky, but yeah, pretty cool. So you can see we're smashing through. I'm going to upload this whole run onto YouTube again for members. This one was really long. This one was over half an hour long. So here we go. We're over half an hour in at this point. I regretted at this point playing it on manual. I was like, what have I done? Which is why this video didn't come out yesterday. I kind of ran out of time and stuff doing all this testing and planning. Yeah, 53 million at this point, 130 turns in. Not too bad. Let's see how we're doing. We're up against a different set of heads here. Again, the more Torment comes back, the happier we are. Yeah, pretty fun team. Pretty fun team, though. Really, really nice. Boom, Head of Decay goes down once again. We're slamming some damage in here. Really great thing about Var-Gall as well, like when Decay and Mischief aren't there, he can just like do his A3 on cooldown and then his A1 for just sort of maximum damage output. You can stop doing his A2 when they aren't there. There you go. That's how it's looking, like 35 turns in. And we skip on ahead a little bit further. And 180 turns in, guys. 70 million damage here on hard. Pretty fun. So there you can see I kind of messed up and we actually got our buff stolen. I was trying to basically snapshot Mischief and it was a big mistake. And yeah, they get heals up. So I messed up. Kind of feels bad, you know, you make a dumb mistake like that 45 minutes in. Hell no, are we restarting though? We're sticking with it. And yeah, with Mashal, you're just trying to hit as many champs as you can with his A1. It was definitely a mistake using his A3. That's sort of a last resort thing. But there you go. We come up to the end. Boom. We're still going. And then eventually we start getting picked off at the end. Right here. Here we go. Basically 204 turns in, guys. And at this point, we just start getting overrun. It really fell apart because Shamail died and then we started getting feared. And we got eaten. 72.72 million damage. Skull Lord Var-Gall. This is on hard. And you can see the damage output. Mashal with 31 million. You guys can see I'm not in the way, am I? I'm slightly in the way. Mashal with 31 million. Slamming that damage. Boosted by Shamail. Sissia pumping out crazy damage as well. And obviously upping the damage of the team with that decreased defense and weaken. Shamail almost 8 million. Brogni 6.7. Var-Gall 4 million. I mean, that kind of puts it in context, right? Brogni 6.7 million. And he's a good supportive damage dealer. Var-Gall did 4 million. Like it's okay. It's not great. Like, I mean, compared to Mashal, it's nothing, but it's a decent amount of extra damage from a support. You know, it's not necessarily always game changing, but like in the Brutal Key, it was. His damage did matter, but it's really the control that he is bringing. So there you go. And then we've got Arbiter obviously doing her thing. Yeah, great team. 72.72. Boom. Boom. Obviously not full auto, though. You would obviously, I mean, we did 72.72. You're gonna one key hard, no problem, full auto. You do it in manual, and you can do damage like this. So really, really sick. Again, if you guys want to see the other champion builds, I just want to focus on Var-Gall today. Chat to Daisy, or Daisy, the famous zombie game, right? Now talk to Daisy in the comments, or talk to, I think he goes by Nemesis on Discord. So you can chat to him down there. And yeah, see what his other builds works. He's got a lot of creative stuff. But Skull Lord Var-Gall, what did I think about him? I was very impressed. I didn't like the Relentless builds, to be honest. I thought that wasn't great. But I was impressed with this champion. I did struggle on Nightmare. I was trying it out on Nightmare, and I found it hard. We were sort of lacking the support champion to pair with him. I think if you have a Sifi, boom, there you go. Your Nightmare team is pretty much ready to go, because she does a lot more healing than Raglan does. And yeah, she brings you that increased defense and increased speed as well, which I think is more valuable. And the block debuffs is sort of equal to the cleanse. So I think that she would work really well on that Nightmare team. And she can remove fears with her passive too. So I think Sifi would be the go-to to combo with him. And that would push you into Nightmare more easily. We were struggling to make it work on Nightmare. Like I said, 20 million was the best we did on Nightmare, which is still a 2-key threshold, but not quite that 1-key. So I'd have to do more testing with him to do that. But we got that nice 1-key on Brutal. Absolutely smashed hard. Yeah, just a great champion. Great champion. Simple kit, but a very effective kit. And he's so easy to build with these crazy base stats. And he's so good in Faction Wars. He's so good against Scarab that there's really no harm in building him up and booking him out anyway. And there you go. You get this guy. Be happy. If you get Skull Lord Var-Gall, you should be happy. You just got like the best Scarab champion, one of the best Hydra champions, and an absolutely monster champion for faction wars and anything like that as well. Guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Big shout out once again to Dazzy/Nemesis for letting me jump onto his account and showcase not one but two Skull Lord Var-Galls. I will see you all next time. Give the video a like as well, please. It took a long time to do like all those Hydra runs and all that stuff. I'll see you all soon. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.